old-timer.
Where'd you come from?
I was passing by and said to myself, that looks like a man in need of some answers.
Do I? What sort of answers am I looking for?
Be honest with me. Aren't you just a little confused about your options for the upcoming 2024 election?
Well, sure. I'm not fully aware of who each of these men are and what they stand for.
And you need help. Well, old-timer, that's what I'm here for.
Well, I suppose a little help is a good thing. Okay, young man, I'll hear you out.
What confuses you the most?
I'm just not sure about either of these men. I guess Biden's done a decent job as president, but he's pretty old now. Maybe Trump would be the more pragmatic choice. I'm just not sure.
Let's talk about age. Yes, Biden's an old man, but Trump is just 3 years younger than he is. So between these two candidates, the age issue is mostly moot. Plus, between the two of them, Trump stumbles and mispronounces his words far more than Biden does.
He does do that a lot.
Between the two of them, Trump may be a few years younger, but he exhibits more signs of senility than Biden.
Folks tell me that Trump was chosen by God to save America. Is that true? Was he chosen by God?
Trump hasn't won an election or endorsed any candidates who won an election since 2016. If he were chosen by God, wouldn't he be able to win something, sometime?
That makes sense.
And why would God concern himself with something as trivial as human politics? God has a universe to run. What possible concern would he have with who we choose for president? Doesn't it seem like it would be beneath him?
It certainly does. And if God were choosing who gets to be president, then he chose Joe Biden as well. It can't just go for Republican candidates.
Republicans will argue that it does, but that can be dismissed as partisan hackery. Let me ask you something else. Do you like being lied to by your president?
Heck no. I want my president to be straight with me.
Well, forget it. If Trump is made president, you'll never hear a word of truth out of his mouth. The man's a pathological liar. He lies even when he doesn't need to.
Why does he do that?
For the same reason a skunk stinks. Because it's his nature. He can't help it. The man is functionally incapable of telling the truth. Ever.
Well, I don't like that.
He's also made it clear that he prefers a fascist autocracy over a constitutional democracy as his preferred form of government. His obsequious fawning over Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, and other fascist autocrats is indicative of where his intentions lie. He's no fan of democracy.
But America is a democracy. If you're going to be president of America, isn't it axiomatic that you support democracy?
You would think so, but where Trump is concerned, suspending the Constitution becomes an option once he retakes the office.
Well, I certainly don't approve of that.
Nor should you.
What's with all these trials? Is Trump truly guilty of all these felonies he's accused of?
Well, that's up to the juries to decide, but there's certainly ample evidence against him. One also can't help but notice that Biden and every other president managed to complete their service to the office without amassing any felonies at all. All this criminal activity is restricted exclusively to Trump's term in office.
But if he's guilty, wouldn't he be in jail by now?
Ideally, he should be, but the will to jail him is lacking, so he gets to remain free despite his defiant behavior toward the judge's admonitions. It's an ongoing failure of the justice system to take a firm hand with him and his antics. He's like a child testing the limits of what he can get away with. The more they refuse to jail him, the more he'll push those limits. It's childish. But Trump has the maturity level of a preteen.
My friends tell me that if we elect a Democrat, that will result in a massive increase to the debt. Republicans tend to be fiscally responsible while Democrats march to the tune of spend. Spend, spend.
Let's talk about debt. One thing Republicans never seem to get is that there's such a thing as good debt and bad debt. Good debt is money spent on programs and services that are needed and benefit everyone. Infrastructure, renewable energy, Medicare for all are all examples of good debt. Bad debt would be the $2 trillion free tax giveaway Trump gave to the richest 1% in 2017, himself included. That money raised the country's debt bill and bought us nothing whatsoever. That's bad debt. Tax money used for the betterment of everyone is the whole reason we pay taxes. Republicans just like to whine and bitch that they have to pay any taxes at all.
I never thought of it like that before. So to determine good debt from bad, I look at who benefits from the money spent.
That's part of it. Also, how much was spent and for what purpose.
But what about inflation? Groceries, gas, a place to live. Everything's crazy expensive. That's Biden's fault, isn't it?
Biden doesn't dictate the price of food, fuel, or housing. Inflation is the result of corporate greed. The individual industries determine what they're going to charge. All the president can do is try to react to it and try to bring it down.
So blaming the president because your groceries cost too much is misdirected anger?
Exactly. The real cause of inflation is simple corporate greed. The president didn't wake up one day and say to himself, food should cost more. The supermarket chains decided that and raised their prices.
Interesting. I feel like I've been fed a lot of wrong information.
You have. Many people have.
You've given me a lot to think about, young man.
Let me give you a little more. Trump has proven he's a liar, a criminal, a cheat, and a fascist who aspires to be this country's king. He wants to be untouchable by the law. He wants to utilize the military to enact his policies and enforce his will. If he's reelected, he'll unmake everything the founding fathers entrusted to us and eliminate many of the freedoms we've all come to expect as Americans. Nothing will be safe. Our lives will be changed for the worse, and our children and grandchildren will never know what it meant to be free. Can you live with that?
Certainly not. I like my freedoms. I prefer living under a constitutional democracy more than any other form of government I can think of. And I want my grandchildren to enjoy the kind of freedoms I always have.
Don't we owe it to them to protect this country from the ruination that another Trump presidency would bring? It's not just a matter of protecting them from broken bones or getting sick. We also have to protect their liberties when threatened by a power-hungry madman.
Wow. When you put it like that, my responsibility becomes clear. Voting for Trump is suicide. You've made a compelling argument, young man, and given me a lot to consider.
I just want you to be an informed voter.
I'll think long and hard about all this by the time it comes to cast my vote.
That's all I ask, old-timer.
Thank you for stopping by today. I wish you the best of luck with your efforts working for the Biden campaign.
Oh, I don't work for the Biden campaign. I work for the Trump campaign.
But you didn't say one good thing about Trump.
Because there's nothing good to say. If Trump wants me to push his candidacy, then he should have given me something I could embrace. Since he's all about fascism, authoritarianism, and the elimination of freedom and democracy, it's his own goddamn fault that I'm going to run him down. I voted for him in the past. I'm not falling for that again.
How do I know what you're telling me is true? People tend to put their chosen candidate on a pedestal.
They certainly do, but everything I've told you here can be verified just by spending some time on the internet researching the things Trump has said himself about what he plans to do with the second term. There's audio and video of everything I've told you coming straight out of Trump's face. You don't have to just take my word for anything. The truth is readily available for anyone concerned enough about the truth to go looking for it.
You seem like a very principled young man.
I gotta live with myself after all this is over. Bye, old-timer. It's been nice meeting you.
Bye. Nice young fella. I should have introduced him to my daughter.